Hi there. My name is Holly Haynes. I am a business strategist and I help you build a full-time business without relying on the social media drama. So right now, if you're feeling stuck in growing your email list and maybe even have tried ads and didn't love them, then you're going to love this week's episode. So this summer, I tested out 3 organic growth strategies for our email list, and one of them blew the others out of the water. And the best part is it's a strategy that supports other amazing women in your industry. So if you're curious how we did it, I encourage you to watch the full episode to discover the secret weapon that skyrocketed our email growth, and then head on over to hollymariehaynes.com/social to download the entire framework. Welcome back to our Friday Pep Talks, which if you are new around here, welcome. We have so many new listeners. We've had such an epic growth season of this podcast. So I'm so excited that you came back to listen. But over here at the Crush the Rich headquarters, I'm always testing, right? So we're testing ways to increase our reach, to really think about how can we repurpose our content better? How can we increase our visibility better, and really just think about how can I get our message in front of more people to make a bigger impact, which I think is a lot of your goals as well. And so I mentioned a few weeks ago that we were sort of in our slow CEO summer, but it's not what you think. It basically meant that things externally were slowing down. So I wasn't on social media as much. We did a lot more traveling as a family, had a lot less meetings, but there were 2 non-negotiables that were on my list. And that's going back to the previous episode where we talked about it. Slow doesn't mean slow as in you're not doing enough. It just means you're doing things a little bit more intentionally. And so the 2 things that were my non-negotiables were this podcast. So we have not missed an episode for 2 years, which is why we have this is episode 458, which is crazy to me. And grow my email list, because those are the 2 things that move the needle the most for me personally. And one of the things that I teach inside our mastermind and inside Anti-Social School is really thinking about what are the things that move the needle the most for you, because it's different for every business. Some people, it might be dancing on TikTok. Other people, it might be going to local events. And so you really have to figure out what are your non-negotiables. But if you happen to sit in any of our client calls, I almost always ask you, what is your client attraction plan? As in, what are you doing to get more eyes onto your business? But also, if you're experiencing a little bit of a slower season, look at your relationships, right? Because relationships are what create momentum. Relationships are what create trust, and that eventually creates sales. So if you're feeling slow or stuck, my question back to you is, what is your client attraction plan? And where are you spending your time creating relationships? So this episode is what I call a shorty episode, because we're getting straight to the point. But one of the things that we did this season to grow our email list organically might actually surprise you. We actually did 3 things, but one made the biggest impact. So if you follow me on Instagram, the first thing I'll share is we were playing around with ads. And I have a love-hate relationship with ads, because we've ran them before. This was before we implemented our anti-social strategy, and we did not have great luck with it. We spent a lot of money, knock on wood, because I don't want to bash anyone that's had success with running ads, but they just haven't worked for us. We've got the funnels, we've got the stats, we've done all the things, we've hired big agencies, and they just haven't converted the way that I thought. And so I was okay, I'm just going to play around with it again, because I see other people doing it successfully, just like you do. You, I'm sure, look at other people and you're oh, well, Sally's doing that, I should do that too. Well, I fell into that trap. So I was playing around with the new Instagram ad feature, which pointed people to our podcast reel and then eventually to our private podcast. So the results, the good news is we didn't spend a ton of money. We're talking $300. Not much happened. So it increased our engagement on our account, which was great, but we didn't really see any new clients come in. So my takeaway is, if you want to run ads, or you're thinking about increasing your exposure in that kind of way, hire an expert. I have lots of friends who run ads and have had great success, but it's not something that I wanted to invest the money in right now. So I went back to what I teach all of you, and that is our antisocial client attraction plan. So here's what we did. And this was like our summer season. This is what I did over the summer. So first, I made a dream podcast pitch list. This does not have to be a podcast list. It could just be like a dream partner list, a dream networking list. So if you are new around here in 2023, a year ago, I had the audacity to think that I should speak on as many podcasts as possible, and ended up speaking on 300 podcasts in 1 year that are not my own. So it's actually a huge part of why we are where we are now, because I took that sort of like one strategy and went all in. But on the flip side, just being honest, I got a little burnt out. So I took a little break from podcasting this summer, but we're back. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to make this fun again. I want it to feel good because I like it. I just need a little break. And so I want to think of like, these are the dream podcasts that I can be on. I made a list. If I'm being honest, I haven't done anything with the list yet, but we're starting this week to pitch ourselves to that list, right? So it was just fun for me to like make the activity fun again and like feel good about it. So that's the first thing that we did. And obviously that's a long-term growth plan there. The second thing that I did was joined some networking groups. So every time I speak in person or in a virtual room, something good happens. And by good, meaning I meet a really great new friend, I make some really awesome relationships, or better, I actually get paying clients. So my goal in the last quarter was to put myself in these rooms, which means I had to like figure out, okay, well, like, how do you actually do that? So my sort of tangible goal was I have one call a week where I'm in a virtual or real live room with other business owners. That was my goal. So in addition to making my like dream partner list, I then said, okay, I'm going to put myself in a room with people once a week. Now it's an hour. You can do it. And honestly, the outcome has been so amazing that I could barely keep up, right? So this is where 90% of my collaborations came from. And a lot of those like dream partners came from the introductions that I've had in these rooms. So if you have a goal to network more or pitch more or whatever that is, I say make it into like a tangible activity of like, okay, once a week, I'm going to be on a Zoom call or I'm going to be in an actual room with people that do things that complement what I do. That was my goal. And it's been really fun to do this season. Number 3, and now we're starting to get into where I saw some results pretty quickly. The first 2 were sort of more long-term strategies. These actually worked really fast. And that is we created a podcast series. So a 3-episode series that led to a lead magnet and eventually our product, which is the Crush the Rush Club. So if you've been listening to this podcast, in July, we did the CEO Week Challenge, which is our most downloaded lead magnet ever. And so what I decided to do was, if I can get you to connect with me over our podcast, typically that leads to a longer relationship. So I was like, okay, this is our most popular lead magnet. How do I like spice it up and make it different, new again, right? Like, how do I make it new again? But obviously it's the same. It's just we're talking about it in a little different way. So I taught it live. You can go back and listen to the episodes, over 3 podcast episodes for the whole month of July, giving an update for 2024, and then leading people back to the original challenge. The cool part is we have so many people that come back and take CEO Week over and over and over again. If you haven't taken it, you can just go to hollymariehaines.com/CEO Week, or you can go back and listen to the episodes. But now we have reusable, updated content that we can use the rest of the year, which is like a whole series to share, right? So I've got like YouTube videos and reels and like so much content that I don't even know what to do with it yet. We set up a playlist on our YouTube channel, and there's been so much repurposing that I like honestly can't keep up. Like, we have so much content, I don't even know what to do with it half the time. So what I do now is I go into these communities, which I'm getting access through partners and relationships and teaching it live. And now I have an updated resource and videos and podcasts to sort of supplement that. So if you don't have a podcast, you can create a video series. You can create an email series. If you do have a podcast, you can create a podcast series. But really thinking about creating a series where people are excited to come back to learn about the next step. Now, we loved it so much and saw such great results with it. We did the same thing over on our Ditch the Social Drama podcast. We have a new series that just released called It's Not Your Launch, It's Your Audience. Same concept, but it's new, right? Like it's new, it's updated, it's talking about like what the heck is happening in 2024 in the online business. And it's been really fun. So I would encourage you to create content in a way that is repeatable over a couple of weeks, right? Like creating a series, which is inviting people to come back and it's moving people onto your email list. So that worked really well for us this summer. And then the one that you might not expect that worked the best was really simple swaps and highlighting other business owners. So this has kind of been like the Olympics of sharing what works for me. But this season, we sent out an email every single week highlighting another business owner. And it has been fabulous. It has been so cool. First, it feels really amazing to share the amazing work that all of you guys do. Like it just feels so good. And I always say, like, if it feels good, then it probably is going to do well, right? But it's opened up so many conversations, going back to number one, for lead magnet swaps and partnerships and collaborations and networking and speaking, going back to number two, and more. So we've been doing this via email, which has hands down been the easiest, most fun growth strategy to date because all I'm doing is highlighting all of you, which has then led to more partnerships, more collaborations, all of the things. So now you know about number one and number two. You've heard me talk a lot about it, but how amazing is it to have a strategy in your business that supports other women? And it just got me thinking, like, this is the number one thing we did to grow our email list this season, and it was not talking about our business. And honestly, I think it worked because our Crush the Rush brand is all about community, and it's all about helping others see success, which I think is why it feels so good. So it has like just brought this little sparkle to my email life, right? Like it's just been so fun introducing you to our community members and some of my online friends. And I say that this strategy has wings, right? Because now I'm seeing other people do the same thing. And it's like we've just created this cool, like networking, like spider web effect. So when you think about marketing and your client attraction plan, I want you to think about what can you do to serve first, right? Like how can you stand out in a way that feels organic and good? And I would say like it gets to be easy. Like these are not fancy strategies, right? Like these are like, who do I really want to work with? Let's make a list. Let's join some networking groups. Let's actually track how often we're in a room with other business owners. Let's create a series of content and then let's share and celebrate other women business owners. Like it just felt really good. And I think that's why it's been so successful. So because I love this topic so much, I really encourage you to head on over to our sister podcast, the Ditch the Social Drama. It's a private podcast, which I mentioned, sharing all about not scaling with all of the social media drama. So we dropped a brand new podcast series. You can see one of these methods in real life and see how it works. But we've also got more case studies on how to do this, what is actually happening in 2024, and how you can grow your dream client list. So just go to hollymariehaynes.com/social and you can grab the new episodes. But more importantly, I would love to know what is one of these techniques that you're going to use to help grow your email list this season. What are you going to do to increase your relationships so that not only are you scaling, but you're making a bigger impact?